one. Go ahead, please.
Well, welcome to the Board of Education meeting tonight. I would like to call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I would like to greet all of our virtual and in-person guests for public forum tonight. The guests who signed up to speak virtually are in a waiting room and can hear, and depending on the device you see this meeting. The guests who signed up to speak in person are here with us in the boardroom. When we get to the public forum agenda, your name will be called in the order it was received. And for the guests, the Zoom meeting host will bring you into the main room to speak for 1 minute. Those are for our virtual guests. Please turn on your camera and microphone. And for the in-person guests, please come to the microphone at the back of the room in the center aisle. So just another note is you may not yield your time to another speaker. Once your speaking time is finished, the virtual guests will be ushered back to the attending waiting room. The in-person guests are asked to return to their seat. You may also choose to leave the meeting at that point and watch the YouTube live stream. At the end of the public forum segment, we will continue with tonight's agenda. If you did not have a chance to say everything you would like to say, please email the board members at boarded@aps.edu or call us at 505-880-3729. And so tonight we are also using a closed captioning feature. The captioning will also be visible on the YouTube live stream. So for those speaking during the meeting, please speak clearly so the closed captions are as accurate as possible. So would everyone in the boardroom please stand if you're able and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
I can't hear anything.
Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Thank you. I'm going to ask for a moment of silence for those that have given their lives in service to our country and for those connected to the APS community who have died in recent days. Thank you. Ms. Yeager, may I have a roll call, please?
Danielle Gonzalez, Barbara Peterson. Here. Crystal Tapia Romero, Josefina Dominguez. Board Member Dominguez, I can see you. You're okay. I actually need to hear you. Can you say present?
I'm present.
Aragon.
Here.
Courtney Jackson.
Here.
And Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Here. Board of Education meetings will be hybrid meetings with community members and public forum speakers having a choice to attend in person at the John Milne Community Boardroom or virtually at www.aps.edu. Presenters and recognition guests will attend virtually. Public forum, either virtual or in person, is part of the Board of Education meetings on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And regardless if public forum speakers attend in person or virtually, all speakers must sign up for the public forum on the APS website the day of the meeting and before the start of the meeting. Please be sure to visit the APS website to check the agenda. You may participate by attending the meeting in person, watching the live stream of upcoming meetings, or by clicking on the live meeting stream button on the main board page at www.aps.edu, emailing input, comments, and questions to board members at boarded@aps.edu, or calling at 505-880-3729. Our first item for consideration and action is adoption of the October 19, 2022 Board of Education meeting and agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move for adoption. This is Peggy.
Second, this is Courtney.
You have a roll call, please?
Danielle Gonzalez, Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero, Josefina Dominguez.
Yes. Yes.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes. And so it's good to have you on virtually with us, Board Member Dominguez. I know you're traveling, attending a conference, so we appreciate you being here. Our next item is public forum, and Secretary Jackson, will you please share the instructions for public forum?
I want to welcome our public forum guests who are in the attendee waiting room and in the boardroom. Whether you are here with a request for the Board of Education to consider, provide information, or just see how the Board of Education operates, we want you to know that you are welcome. The Board of Education has established rules for expected civil behavior during the public meeting and during the meeting and public forum. As part of the process to sign up to speak tonight, you were asked to read a copy of the procedural directive that outlines those rules for expected behavior. The presiding officer will enforce these rules as appropriate throughout the meeting. The Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Chapter 10, Article 15, requires that agendas contain a list of specific items to be discussed or acted on at meetings. Due to these rules, public forum is not a dialogue with board members. Public forum is an opportunity for the Board of Education to listen to you and to hear your comments. In just a few moments, your name will be called in the order it was received. Guests who signed up virtually will be brought into the main virtual meeting room to speak by the Zoom host. When escorted into the room, please have your audio and video on and be ready to speak. Once your speaking time is finished, you will be ushered back to the attendee waiting room. Guests who are here to speak in person are asked to come to the microphone in the center aisle at the back of the room to speak when your name is called. When you have finished speaking virtually or in person, you may choose to leave the meeting and watch it on live stream. Each speaker tonight will have two minutes for comments, and tonight there are 19 speakers. You will be directed to please complete your sentence quickly at the end of your time so that others may have a chance to speak. You may not yield your unused time to another speaker. If you felt you were not able to convey your message, please send your comments to boarded@aps.edu. In addition, for those who are here in person, there's a representative from the Student, Parent, and Employee Service Center who is here to help with any specific situations. So at this time, Mr. Gonzalez, will you please introduce our speakers?
Thank you, Board Member Jackson. Our first speaker this evening is in person, and it is Richard Valenzuela. Mr. Valenzuela, you'll have 2 minutes once you start speaking.
And fellow board members. My name is Richard Valenzuela. I'm an AFCP Local 4129 union representative and a proud APS school bus driver for the last 6 years. First of all, let me just say that I, as well as my colleagues here tonight, love driving a school bus and taking care of your children and getting them to and from school. But we are here today to bring attention to a problem that requires some serious attention from all of you. Imagine the problems that many teachers are facing these days with violence and abuse in the classroom. And now imagine putting that behavior on a 40-foot moving vehicle. In a classroom, you can decrease the danger to the students who are not involved by removing them from the room. But in our situation, you cannot, let alone still trying to navigate the traffic around us. As you can imagine, the task becomes daunting and extremely dangerous for everyone. What we need is the ability to act immediately and remove the impending danger, and not to be told to write the student up and continue to their stop, and we'll take care of the issue later. Since much of the bad behavior takes place within a short distance from leaving the school, we should be able to take the students back to the school immediately so that the parents become part of the solution right away. Too often, no one is left at the school, or we get no response when a call is made back to the school. Consequently, we fear that the parents never hear or know anything about the problem. As you can imagine, we'll take care of the issue later, usually means a few days, 2 weeks before removal happens, if at all, and the problem persists. Please hear our plea and the seriousness of our dilemma and help us. We do not want to become the next news story next story on the evening news. My colleagues and I are here will enlighten you with a few of their stories, and in the future, we will bring more colleagues with more stories until we get results. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Casey Peterson. Mr. Peterson, when you begin speaking, you'll have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I'm speaking today regarding the proposed policy KB1, parental rights and responsibilities. I appreciate you guys bringing this parental rights policy forward, shoring up parental rights, and just wanting to make a few suggestions on it in this time for public comment. And the first one I would say is the language surrounding it is not very specific. And anybody that's been in the legal world understands it's not very binding. Using some of the words in a lot of these bullet points, almost every one of them need to be shored up in some way, saying things like, oh, this is going to happen timely or promptly, having a list of definitions somewhere in the back, explaining exactly what that means in timeframes, and then saying when parents need to be informed about something, giving exact methods that are used to inform those parents in case the parents don't actually recognize that they've been informed. I think you need some more specifics in there. So the three points here, that's the first one. Second point is that I think it's very important that we shore up the rights of parents when it comes to, we need to assume the parents are on the side of the child, not the other way around. And we need to give parents full access to the curriculums. And that includes what's being taught, what the teachers and the administrators, any training that they have access to, the parents should have access to that without having to jump through hoops. That's the second point. And then finally, of course, children's mental health. It came to our attention that in the state, if a child is 14, they don't have to tell the parents anything. And this might not be at your level. So I don't know where this crosses the line of legally, but certainly anything and everything that is possible at this level, the school board level, the parents should be involved in everything to do with their child's mental health. We are on the side of our child. We are advocates for our child. I don't think any parent should be treated as if they are going to be damaging to their own child. It should always be assumed the other way around, innocent until proven guilty. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Our next speaker is Alyssa Romaine. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Thank you for this opportunity and thank you for your service to our community. I am the PTA president at Collette Park Elementary School, where my son attends the 2nd grade. Our school has been victimized by repeated acts of vandalism, beginning last summer, but with increasing frequency in recent weeks. Individuals have broken into many of our classrooms. On at least 6 occasions, these individuals inflicted property damage that is costing thousands of dollars to replace and repair. But much more importantly, these vandals have severely disrupted the ability of our students to learn and our teachers to teach. When the students and teachers don't know if their classrooms will be intact when they arrive in the morning, our school does not feel like a safe environment to learn and grow. Kids are being shuffled from classroom to cafeteria. This is not just property damage. These needless, frankly, stupid crimes are negatively affecting the education of the 315 children who attend Collette Park Elementary. What is very distressing is that at least one of the vandals has been identified from security camera footage, yet the break-ins have not stopped. This vandal is a middle school age child in my school's community. The district knows what he is doing. APS police knows what he is doing. His parents know what he is doing. His probation officer knows what he is doing, but he is still ruining our school without consequence. I have called APS Student Services and APS Police, and I have been told we're working on it. Clearly, whatever work is being done is insufficient. This is unacceptable. Please, our school needs your help. We parents are doing everything we can legally. Our school staff and administration are doing everything they can. I encourage you to use the power you have and the voice that you have to get this school district to take action so that our school can function properly again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Florentina Lopez. Ma'am, you'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, fellows of the board members. My name is Florentino Lopez, a school bus driver for 38 years and a proud member of ASCP Local 4129. The children's behaviors on the school bus are out of control. Nothing is being done. A school's behavior management plan and administration do not always provide the necessary support for bus behavior plans. This is a problem commonly seen in this profession. Bus drivers are encouraged to take control, which needs the supports of the school principal to be able to be effectively manage and behaviors that occur on the school bus. Different schools tend to use different methods to resolve conflicts that occur. While some administrative faculty members prefer to get involved personally, others take less interactive approach to solving the situation. This tends to cause problems on the school bus for drivers. The lack of support leads to less effective disciplinary strategies used. Having the school bus administration support regarding a bus behavior plan is necessary. The support ensures that an unacceptable behavior that has occurred during the care of a driver is addressed and the punishment is enforced. The enforcement of the punishment helps the children understand their wrongs and doings. The students must understand the consequences for unacceptable behavior. Some behaviors that occur both in the school and on the bus are foul language, bullying, aggressive behavior, fighting, threats, weapons, and sometimes drugs and alcohol. Because of limited time with students, bus drivers can only do so much to prevent the disciplined students, unlike teachers and other administrative members. Mostly important, many drivers feel they are not receiving support from the school's administrative faculty when disciplinary action is needed. In our district, punishment is handled using the guide located within the APS Handbook for Student Success. This handbook includes information on how a driver, bus attendant, or administration may choose different consequences when handling a situation. Administration, principals, and employees are all not on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Juan Enriquez. So you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Scott Elder, I just want to bring up the issue that we have a lack of support from our principals and the district themselves. We have a lot of issues with our students' behavior. We ask our principals for support. They don't listen to us. I don't know what else to do. There was an instance where I asked for support from my immediate supervisor, and she actually just came in and just started yelling for no reason. I was in my classroom with 3 wheelchairs. I work at IGS 2, which is intensive global support. And I had 3 wheelchairs in there, and it was just me by myself. And I needed the support. And it's ridiculous that I had to go up to even the district level. I had to call my union to come and help me because I didn't have no support. I'm asking you guys, talk to your principals, give them the tools so they can give us the tools to help our kids succeed. We need to do something about this. It's becoming a big issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is April Baca. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, all. First off, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is April Baca. I am a proud member of our local AFCP union. I am an educational assistant at Jimmy Carter Middle School. I've been an educational assistant for 22 years. I have worked in almost every literacy and SPED program in the district. I have seen many changes in our schools. And one thing that I have seen the most is the lack of support and protection in our schools. I work most of the time with one-on-one children at Jimmy Carter that have behavioral problems. And my question is, where are the programs for these individuals that have severe behavioral problems that do things inside of school and outside of school and are let back in? They disrupt the classroom, they threaten us, they try to intimidate us. And sometimes we just have to deal with it. I know that we used to have support and programs, and I'm just wondering if we can bring those back. Because there are kids that really love school and they really love to learn. And sometimes they cannot because we're constantly doing discipline. If we want a society full of disciplined adults, we need to show these kids what it looks like in school. Thank you for your time, because that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Felipa Akun. Philippe, I don't know if I'm saying that right. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Madam Chair, board members, my name is Felipa Kuhn. I am a family liaison over at Via Vista Elementary. I have a hard time just doing my job. We are low on subs. I cannot be helping families if I have to cover a classroom, if I have to go out and do playground duty or cafeteria duty, or having to go out to work in the developmental preschool classes because they don't have enough help. We have the special ed hub at my school. They have gone to my principal with no support. She has told them, if you have 4 kids in your classroom, you don't need an EA. Why don't you go ahead and team up with another teacher and put your classes together? That can't be done. It is 7 students to 1 teacher, 1 EA. So if you got 2 teachers and they each have 4 children, that's 8 children. They can't do it. They can't even do 4 children by themselves because they have to go and take the kids to the bathroom. That right there is a liability because you cannot leave the other 3 children alone in the class without supervision while you were in the bathroom. I believe we need more support from our principals, not at just the elementary level, but at all levels of the schools. We need these principals to have our backs and to be able to support us just as we support them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Pamela Varedes. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Huda Vareles, and I am a school bus driver, and this is my 5th year driving for APS. I usually can handle most of my discipline issues by myself, and unfortunately, I have had to ask for help several times at the schools this year, and I have received little or non-existent support. 2 of these incidences resulted in a complaint to my supervisor. The first incident involved a student who became defiant with me and needed to be removed from the bus. I asked the vice principal for help to remove the student, as I knew that it was going to be a safety issue if we drove away, as I had written him up for yelling out the window, sticking his head out the window, rocking the bus side to side as we moved along a busy main street. She had to ask the school resource officer for help, who stated that he could not remove the student from the bus. The student finally got off the bus, and the vice principal told me that he had an IEP for anger management. And I told her that I would hold him accountable on my bus. She then reported me to my supervisor for refusal to transport. The second incident, I had a female student who refused to sit in her assigned seat. I asked her to move. She cussed me out. She finally got off the bus. I was asked to wait for the principal. The principal came out, demanded that I take the student back to her home. And I told her that wasn't going to happen. She asked me to call for a second bus to come and get this child, explaining that she could not get in contact with the parent. I explained to her that that was not my issue. I had 33 other students that I needed to get home. And she had just shown that they could do whatever they wanted without any consequences. That much over 2 minutes, please wrap up in 1 second. Okay, we need your support. We do not need to have these power struggles with the school administration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Ms. Kathy Chavez.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Scott Elder. I'm Kathy Chavez. I'm the proud president of all of these fabulous people that are speaking tonight of AFCP, who we represent. The bus drivers and attendants, EAs, all clerical, and all now the IT techs also. We want to thank you for listening to the stories of your employees. As you have heard, they are overworked, certainly underpaid, not feeling safe, abused, and not supported. We all know this is post-pandemic, but there are the people who have 85%. These are the people who have 85% or more of the daily custodial care of these students. Their safety, the students' safety are in our hands. And if we don't have the training, the supports, the help, it is going to get worse, and it is getting worse. We need you guys to help us, please. We need more training, of course, more supports, and quite frankly, an occasional thank you would work miracles. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Ruben Apodaca. Sir, you have 2 minutes when you begin speaking.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Elder, good evening. My name is Ruben Apodaca. I drive a special needs school bus for APS. I'm also a member of AFCP Local 4129. My subject is a little different from my fellow employees, although I do have an offer of one suggestion is at the beginning of the school year, I had to drive a regular or a gen ed school bus for a couple of weeks. And me and my attendant partner managed the route with fairly few difficulties. And my attendant is all of 5 foot tall, redhead, and she knows how to deal with the kids on a professional basis. So my suggestion is maybe hiring some more school bus monitors. They don't need them on every bus, but maybe having a couple dozen to go on problem routes or go with the new drivers could probably be a very big help. My employees and I moved into the new APS transportation facility, the Dr. J. Patrick Garcia Transportation Facility. I don't know if you all have been there. It's very nice. It's on Osuna. The facilities are excellent. I have heard no complaints from my fellow employees except for 2 things. We're driving and parking our buses on a dirt lot. The dust gets into everything. Now, because of the recent rains we have, we're dealing with a little bit of standing water and mud, but the access roads where the buses drive are starting to get rutted and potholed. And once this all dries, we're back to dealing with dust. I know that our management has pushed to have this lot paved and also for a wash bay. We have neither. We have right now absolutely no way to wash our buses. These buses that APS spent millions of dollars on, because they're all relatively new, are all sitting at the lot gathering dust. The dust gets into everything, including the engine compartment, the electronics, the interior. We have new buses that are sitting there waiting for drivers. When we go into a new bus, like I had to do last week, they're coated in dust. Me and my attendant go in there with old rags and wipe them down so that the kids don't have to sit in the dust. So my question for the board is there any plans in the very near future to pave the lot at this new lot and also to put a wash bay in to keep our buses clean? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is, I believe it's Michaela Peterson. Did I get your first name right? Michaela, I'm sorry. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
I wanted to speak on the KB1 policy, parental rights and responsibilities. First, I wanted to thank you. This is a really good step towards partnership with parents and transparency towards building trust, I guess, with parents in the community. I have talked to many administrators, counselors, and parents from APS, and they have stated that 14-year-olds are able to have privacy from their parents. And this is a major question in my mind because if we're hiding counseling sessions, mental health resources and treatments, what else are we hiding from our parents? I, for one, want to assume that most parents have their children's best interests at heart. I've not been able to find this policy, and I guess I need to IPRA it, but I would love for you guys to look into that and make sure that that is not the case. And if that is happening, that it is not APS policy. Parents are responsible. I love that you added all of the responsibilities of parents in there, that we are responsible for our children until they are 18, for their health and for their well-being. And that's in all regards of their life. Most parents do take that responsibility very seriously and want only what is best for their children. Listening to all of these discipline issues on these buses, it makes me think that we definitely need more involvement from our parents, and holding them to those responsibilities would also be a very useful step toward curbing some of those discipline issues. No matter what our children's struggles are, we are responsible for their care. We must know what's going on with them. And sometimes the school is in a position where they do find out sooner what is going on with our child than we do. And I believe that the school must be transparent always with the parents, especially there are many different issues right now that are trending with gender questioning and different mental problems. If children are depressed or anxious or anything like that, of course, the parents need to know about it and promptly, so that we can help solve those problems and not hide them from parents in any way, shape, or form. And today, the CDC just voted to add the COVID vaccine to the immunization schedule. Again, I wanted to emphasize that the parents have the best interest of their children at heart, and this should be made a choice, if at all possible, and letting the parents make that decision.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is on Zoom, Mr. Richard Renaud, I believe.
Yes, sir.
You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
All right. Thank you, Board President and board members, for the opportunity for me to speak today and provide input. I want to introduce myself. My name is Richard Renaud, a Las Cruces concerned parent, very active individually with my group on Las Cruces K-12 issues. Today, I'll speak on parental rights and policy KB1. I believe that the Albuquerque School Board and parents are really on the right track addressing parental rights and notification in general. What I want to suggest to add to KB1 is that parents need to have the right to examine the teacher's training materials in addition to curriculum. This is a protection of pupil rights amendment issue. The reason why teacher training needs to be included is that it is curriculum. Las Cruces Public Schools, New Mexico PED unequivocally state that topics such as ethnic studies, CLR, will be taught to the teachers and admin, then infused into the curriculum. The problem with that infusing is that it cuts parents out of the loop, which is not right. It's also a Title I issue. We obtained the CLR training last year that LCPS uses, and that's when we found a couple of disturbing things, very disturbing things. One is we found on page 276 of the CLR textbook, Dr. Shiroki, that Latino cultures place a higher value on human transactions that occur during a given time rather than a specific time itself, and therefore do not value punctuality as highly. I find that very disturbing. My mother was Hispanic. Also, they brought in Ebonics for Mexican Americans. It's just disturbing. So anyway, I just want to close with the dialogue that the APS and parents are having is extremely important, and whatever is agreed upon, the parents will feel hopefully as part of the solution and that they have been addressed. So thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is live, Susie Gao. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Okay, dear board members and superintendent, thank you for your service. So my name is Susie, and I have a sign here. This is made by my 9-year-old son. So support parent rights. Okay, so I'm here to speak about KB1. I'm urging you to vote yes on KB1. I have been watching disbelief in last 2 years that parent rights have been trampled on by in many public schools throughout the nation. Finally, our AP school board has the opportunity to protect our parent rights, basic parental rights, once for all by passing KB1 policy. We as the parents have the absolute rights and responsibilities to know what is happening with our kids at school. Our absolute love and responsibility are completely unconditional and cannot be surpassed by any school, state, or government agency. So I'm really urging you to vote yes on KB1. In addition to what is written in the proposed KB1 policy, I also have few suggested additions. First of all, parents have the right to approve or disapprove any drug, medication, therapy, and or vaccine that may be administered to a child, regardless of any health code, regulation, or mandates. Second, parents have the right to be included in any educational, social, emotional, gender, or any other support plans. Number three, parents have the right to report any improper instructional materials such as LGBTQ, porn-related, transgender stuff, and demand removal of such material. Number four, parents have the right to visit their child's classrooms at any time, observe what is being taught in the classroom, as long as the parents does not interrupt a classroom session. So those are the additions I'm urging you to add on to the policy. So really, I want to say that you are the representative to, you are elected to represent with the parents and want the best for our children. So I have been watching APS school board meeting for many months now. In the last couple of times, I heard people talk about that parents do not love their children. I don't know where their background are, but those people definitely are not parents. They do not have kids. I can say that because those are definitely not true. So
Ma'am,
again,
you've gone over 2 minutes. I need you to wrap up, please.
yes, on KB1, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Eric Olson. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. Thank you.
So good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. And so first of all, my heart goes out to all the teachers and drivers and everyone who spoke tonight. We really appreciate what you do. You have a hard job, and we love our teachers and our staff and faculty. Which makes me think of something that happened recently. We were talking to one of our teachers. We love this. This is a great teacher. And the topic of parents' rights came up with the teacher. And, she said it right up front that just so you know that her views might differ a little bit from our views. She defaults towards teachers' rights and students' rights. And so it made me wonder, is there a disconnect between what parents' rights means? Parents' rights doesn't mean that nobody else gets rights. Parents have rights, right? Who's funding all this? Basically, for a service that's funded by taxpayers, to ask for transparency in what's being taught in the school is not violate anyone's rights. So I think that's what I wanted to say about parents' rights is, we're just looking for transparency. And, hopefully, if anyone up the entire chain of command, from the teacher all the way up to the Secretary of Department of Education, if anyone asks someone to, not disclose something to a child's parent, that puts that person in kind of a hard place, because parents are watching, and parents will find out if things are not being disclosed to them. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Pamela Hansen. You have 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm not a good speaker, so bear with me. I know the parents and grandparents, we want what's best for our own children. We shouldn't expect outsiders to be able to influence them behind closed doors without notifying a parent. Keep to instruction, math, reading. That's all they need to do with our kids. They don't need to teach them about their lives and their values. Just teach our children the basics. And I don't think a 4-year-old should be able to make a healthcare decision. I'm sorry, a 14-year-old should be able to make a healthcare decision on their, if they get pregnant, you're sneaking them out of school to get an abortion, or if you have a shot clinic at the school, they shouldn't be able to make that decision without having talked to their parents. And obviously I'm talking about the KB1, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mary Ingram. You have 2 minutes once you begin speaking, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, my name is Mary Ingham. I was here a few weeks ago, and I'd like to thank Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Elder, and all the parents and good folks that are here. I've been reviewing the paper handbook for student success. I'm here talking about the parent rights. And I'm kind of older, so I'm sort of a really paper person. But I've noted a lot of changes that need to be made in the handbook. And I'm a pediatric physical therapist and have a master's in family studies. And a lot of things are not real clear that are written in here. And I would assume that parents who haven't had too much training in education would have really difficult times. So there are things like FERPA, F-E-R-P-A, that's put in there with no definition. Same thing with IDEA. And those kind of things, I think. So I've made a bunch of thoughts, but my idea is to give this book to parents at a bunch of different schools, see if they can understand what is written here. I know a majority of this is in the on the website as well, but I'm assuming, I didn't cross-check, but I'm assuming it's what is in here specifically. And I think it's really not clear at all what people are really reading, and how would they know what FERPA means or IDA. And so I really just recommend, while in this process, if it's possible, to take a look at the written handbook and what's on the web, to really give the information that's needed by parents and grandparents that are looking out for their kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Delfina Andrea. Did I say that? You have sorry, you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. Sorry.
Hey, my name is Delfina, and I have 3 children. They're way big. I am a grandmother, and my biggest concern is what I've been hearing all over through the community and through the news and everything else. And I feel the same way about our rights as parents and grandparents, like a lot of people have discussed already, that we have a right to our children and grandchildren. And we voted all of you in, and wow, I can't believe this is my first time here, and the problems that I've heard. And I want to ask you guys, or just mention to you, we voted you in. What are you guys are supposed to be working for us, and what is being done? According to what I've heard tonight, it's like nothing is being done. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and just bringing up all the issues, because we have a lot. And I'm not here just for my children, but for all children in New Mexico. Every children has a right to an education, and I'm just appalled of all the things that are taking place. When I was raising my children and I took them to school, this is what they were taught: reading, writing, and arithmetic, not porn. My grandson said something to me that I was appalled, and I can't even speak about what he said to me, but it was just so brutal that I said, why are these kids learning at a young age? And we
we do have the best interest to our children. And we know we raised them, we've made sacrifices all these years, and we have rights to our children. And we have to say and stand up and be bold and defend these innocent children that change their minds. They don't even know what's going on. And it's time to fight. And I just thank you all for being here. And this is not my last meeting, but I am just so thankful. This is my first time, and I appreciate everything that all of us have been here to speak out, because we do have rights and they need to be addressed to everybody. And thank you for just hearing us out.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Lisa Chapman. Okay, you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Good evening, board. My name is Lisa Chapman, and I'm here to speak on the KB1 rights for the parents. I am just wanting to reiterate that we do need the parents to have the rights, parent rights in your says to a school environment for their child that is safe and supportive of learning. I want that for them. I want them to have that. I want them to be learning the basics. We are 50th or 51st in the nation. It is time to get back to basics and to support the rights of the parents and their knowledge for what is happening in the schools. I am also, I have heard stories, I'm sorry, they're secondhand, but that students are being taken off campus during the school day for different reasons without the parents' knowledge. And this has got to stop. You must have permission and have the parents know that for any medical, psychological intervention or counseling, when a kid is going in for counseling, pulled out separately from the rest, the parent they have to know about this. There's just too much that's going on that we don't know about. We had guardianship of a grandson, and he went to elementary school for a few years in APS, and just a little while ago, and he is in second grade, and he came home very angry that he was told that he could be a girl. So what is going on during the school day here? I'm appalled. I just really want you all to please, you're in service to the children.
Ma'am, you've gone over your 2 minutes. I need you to wrap it up in one sentence, please.
I vote in support of the KB1 policy for parent rights.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have one more speaker. She missed her chance earlier, so I put her back here at the end. Her name is Lisa Rogers. Lisa, you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lisa Rogers, and I am a school bus driver of 5 years and a very proud AFCP 4129 rep. I have had numerous routes in my career. The problem on buses has to do with accountability. Many issues are brought to principals who refuse to hold children accountable. Their behavior this year and last year, especially middle school, is sometimes to the point of disturbing. This creates a huge safety issue on our routes, not only with students, but with other drivers on the road. Schools who enforce accountability make us all safer. I recently had a middle school child cuss at me, swear at me, and refuse to follow directions. They ignored bus rules. The principal was made aware, and she told me, well, it wasn't that bad. It could have been worse. It's not that bad. I've had worse inside the school. Then she proceeded to tell me what exactly was said to her by another student. A student with a pocket knife was getting a pass by a principal because we don't want him missing school. Students throwing things out of the windows, hitting other drivers on the road becomes a hazard. This bad behavior cannot be acceptable, and we must hold these children accountable. Accountability in our schools has stopped somewhere across the board, and it's including the bus. Recently, we were sent an email about customer care. Do we as a public school system accept and tolerate bad behavior as part of our business model from our customers who are our students? So those who make the majority, those who are the majority of the customers, which are the regular students, they feel unsafe with the few that are not held accountable. This accountability is a two-way street. Parents have to be on board. We need action. We must not have to wait till 5 write-ups to get them off our bus. Sometimes those 5 write-ups can take 2 weeks. 2 weeks is unacceptable. By that time, the problem is worse, and it's unsafe for all the other children.
Ms. Rogers, you've gone over 2 minutes. I need you to wrap up in 1 sentence, please.
Okay, thank you so much for hearing us out.
Thank you, ma'am. Board members, that concludes public forum.
Thank you. We're going to thank you so much to everyone that came to speak tonight. We're going to move with our regular agenda. That's the process. So you're welcome to stay and listen to us, or you're ready. If you're ready to leave, you can too. So our next item for consideration and action is approval of consent calendar items. And it's consideration for approval of an October 19, 2022 Board of Education meeting items. We've got approval of qualification bids, base bids in the amount of $1,350,000 plus applicable taxes as submitted by Thompson Construction for the Truman Middle School gym re-roof, and Dr. Gabriela Blakey, Chief of Operations Officer, and Kizito Wajenje are going to present this information to us.
Board Member Montoya Cordova, we're asking for your approval of this on our consent agenda. It is to re-roof Truman Middle School.
Any questions, or may I have a motion?
I just have a quick one, Dr. Blakey. So this is my question, because I've been told this, and so I don't know if it's true or not, but what kind of warranty is there on the roofs, or once they're done, is it like done?
Kizito, can you answer that question? Could you hear her?
Thank you, Dr. Blakey. Board Member Mira Aragon, Chair of the board. We have standard warranties for all new roofs done. I don't have the exact details in terms of how many years, but we go by industry standard, and it's part of the procurement of every roofing contract that we do, and we can avail it to you as soon as possible.
Okay, that'd be great. I know a lot of times it's just like 5 years, but I know there are some that go higher. So if you could let us know, that'd be great.
Thank you. We will.
Any other questions?
I'll move for approval. This is Barbara.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Peggy.
May we have a roll call, please?
Danielle Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero. Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes. So our next item is just our special issues. We're going to continue our conversation regarding the APS Board of Education Community Listening Plan. And this is a discussion. I know I'm leading this part. So, and I think just Ms. Yeager, did we have, was Ashley positive? She's connected? Okay, I just want to make sure so that board members know that she is connected. So what we're going to do here is the background on this is that we're going to finalize our community listening plan by answering these questions that were sent on the sheet that we had. And it was like, what dates will the engagement and outreach opportunities take place? And there's some projected dates there because those are in alignment with what we thought, you know, what we said we wanted to do in the timeline. How many engagement opportunities will be hosted during that time frame? And how will the events be divided among the community? And what types of locations would the board prefer to host the meetings? And what kinds of accommodations should be provided? And what groups within the community should receive deliberate communications? And when we were thinking, everybody gave a list of everything. So those folks will receive communications. But when we're talking deliberate communications, just making sure groups that we definitely want to target. So I want to, before we get into discussion, is just kind of like lay out some of the thoughts that I had around this. I did get to meet with Ashley over the weekend so that we could talk about a way to just sort of get ourselves organized here. So when we look at the schedule in terms of looking at what's really, what's realistic, because November is like in a couple of weeks. So we were saying that realistically, the time frame that we're looking at is really like November the 9th through, let's say, December the 9th would be the dates. And there's 1, 2, 3, like 4 weeks in there because we're going to need the week of the 12th to the 16th to synthesize some information. And so when we were looking at that, we were thinking that a big way to pace ourselves is to have like what I would call like one big session per zone, right? So we'd have zone 1s, 2, 3, and 4, a big session that we could get all the community, and we could announce them all, and you could pick one wherever you want to go. So you don't have to go, if it's not convenient for you that particular week, you could pick another week, but we would announce all 4 for the big ones, for like the big, I always want to get these right. It's the community outreach piece, right? Because engagement, outreach, I always get them backwards. I think it's the community engagements are the big ones, and then the outreach would be the other ones. Plus, in addition to that, thinking about doing some targeted sessions that we knew for groups that were really specific as we were synthesizing information. So like one for our tribal communities, because we know with the tribal council and Martinez Yazzie really putting one intentional session that would be for that group specifically, one session specifically in Spanish also, so that would be an alternative for those families that just want to come in a monolingual Spanish way. And then one for our refugee community, which we thought would be, it's a unique community in terms of just some of the uniqueness around it because of the complexity of interpreting and the types of services and supports that they would need. And then during that time, any kind of outreach, if board members have a particular groups that they want to do outreach, but with the agreement that we would go in pairs, that we would do that. So those were kinds of the conversations that I had with Ashley, and so now I'll just open it up because I didn't want to just sort of like not let you guys believe that I've been on the background to sort of having some conversations so that we could figure out how we could best coordinate this. The goal is tonight, we definitely have to sort of put out into the universe, if you will, of like what we're targeting in terms of some of those engagement sessions so that the staff will also know how to get themselves organized and helping us to pull those together. I know Brenda's really eager for that. So is the superintendent and the senior cabinet. So I will just open it up for discussion now, just having presented that, and see what your thoughts are on that and how you feel about that particular proposal. Go. Whoever wants to speak. I mean, we're such a small group, so.
I just wanted to clarify. So what you have laid out is the 4 zones, the big ones, and then 3 more targeted. So we have 7 meetings, and obviously not all of us are going to go to all 7 meetings. So those targeted ones, and we're going to set those zone meetings up like 1 per week, like zone 1's 1 week, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 across the weeks. Okay.
So the proposal would be, so like, for example, the week of November the 9th through the 11th, there'll be a zone meeting somewhere. So, and we'll break it up into 1, 2, 3, and 4, because I think that makes it easiest for us. And then week 2 would be the 14th through the 18th. Week 3, the 28th through December the 2nd, and then week 4, December 5th through the 9th would be the next one. But in between those dates, it could be that one of those weeks could be, there's a zone meeting, but there might also be a targeted session. You see what I mean? So that we could fit all 7 of those in. And on these particular meetings, it's actually sort of that broad announcement to the community. So the community is aware, we've announced the dates. We'll use like media to help us to advertise those. And even for those targeted sessions, these are the sessions that there will always be 2 board members to facilitate the opening of each of these sessions. So for example, one board member would say, here's what and I wish Ashley was on here. I just have my notes, but I don't remember exactly how to describe it. But it's where one board member is describing the purpose of what we're going to do. And the second board member would just sort of help to facilitate that conversation. But we could all attend. So it doesn't mean that you couldn't be there, but we would definitely have like 2 board members in each of those sessions that would be responsible for sort of leading or sort of being in the lead out front for those sessions.
Okay. And so just a couple suggestions is maybe we keep them on either the Monday, Wednesday, just because that's like we already are calendared in ways for that, if possible. And are they going to be, I'm assuming they're going to be evening sessions?
I think that's what's for discussion for us to decide.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because was there conversation that we would do them like at the high school?
That's part of here too. So it's like, what types of locations would we prefer? Like, so this is me personally speaking. My preference would be that they are in a school location, right? Because I think that the community would tend to want to come. And I guess if it's going to be a big session, it's going to have to be a high school of some sort, because I think they would have the best accommodations for that. So sort of giving, and all we're doing at this point is just saying that that's our preference. That is it going to be, if it's a Monday or a Wednesday, it could come, well, a Wednesday evening could conflict with our board meeting schedule. Is that, I'm just curious about that.
Let me look.
I think Mondays could conflict with.
Yeah, so I think the goal here is for them to not conflict with our regular board meeting schedules, because we have to keep our board meetings. But we also would have to, it's also up to the district staff, because we're going to have to get agreement from whatever school we use. So maybe the gym's not available on a particular night, or a cafeteria, or whatever they want to do, because maybe they're doing something else. So a lot of it's also to like our hosts also have to give us feedback. But once we figure that out and say, this is what we want, then the district staff will help us to figure out how to nail that down. My thoughts are for sure in the evening, because we could also give parents and the community that, that ability to be there. So that would be what we would do for sure.
Yeah, I retract my Monday, Wednesday suggestion, because looking at our November, we have meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays, so I retract that suggestion. Yes, I think that sounds nice. It sounds great. We're getting across the community. We're targeting the areas that need. And with the knowledge that we can still go out to some of those smaller groups, so long as we go in twos. I think that sounds nice, and doing it in the evening so that the most amount can attend.
Because the other thing that is important here, so like these are the ones that would be organized, right? And communicated out through media, marketing, would do the best so that we can get people registered, we can get people there. I don't know if we have to do a registration, but just making sure that it's, that we've got a marketing campaign. And when I thought about it, rather than setting for whatever zone, like it's, and that you have to go to that zone, I thought if these are just for the community in general, and it doesn't matter what zone you live in. So if a family member from like, say zone 2 just can't go the night that it happens to be at either Rio Grande or Atrisco Heritage, but they can go the night that it's going to be at Highland or wherever, that's okay. I mean, I think this is really not about the district you live in or the community that you live in. It's really about the school district as a whole. So we could go anywhere and we'd open it up.
Just communicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because the questions are going to be
Yeah,
the same
the
no matter
same.
where you
Right.
go. So it's not zone
Mhm.
specific, it's
Mhm.
district specific.
Right. And the issue here, or not the issue, but the process is to make sure that, because when I've talked to Ashley about this, is like, we have to be really consistent. It's not apples and oranges, but it's apples and apples and apples and apples, that we're doing the same process no matter where. And even with those targeted communities, it's still the same targeted conversation. But we knew for those particular communities, there's some accommodation that needs to be made, especially on the tribal leaders, because tribal communities are going to have to travel bigger distances. And I think we would also just have, I think we just need to create that and honor that space for our tribal communities to come together. Did you see, Board Member Dominguez, did you have some comments?
No, I like the thinking. I like that we can have targeted, intentional small groups during the same week that we have the zone meetings. And maybe, we have 3 targeted small groups. And we have 4 zone or I don't want to call them zone. What should we call them? District wide.
Yeah, 4 district-wide meetings spread out, community meetings spread out throughout the community.
And maybe in the 4th week, we can have, I don't know, I'm just trying to create one more opportunity for the small targeted groups in the event they can't make their one opportunity, because everybody else is going to have 4 opportunities, right?
But they will also have the opportunity to go to those other meetings. So I think one of the accommodations that we probably would have to have at those meetings would be interpreters services, no matter what. So, but I think the one where, let's just say, for example, the monolingual Spanish, where it's going to all be in Spanish. So for those of us that don't speak Spanish fluently, the interpretation is going to be for us. So it's going to be down. So, I mean, I definitely understand Spanish more than I can speak it. And I would definitely love to be part of that. But I think it just creates that comfort and that ability for those families that are monolingual Spanish families to have that opportunity to participate. And the same for our refugee community, because it's really hard. There's going to be, it's multilingual, but I've been in meetings where APS has done that with our refugee community, and it's an art. And I think APS has it down. And I also believe that community feels really confident in that kind of a setting. So I'm going to stop here because it's superintendent is on, I guess, and he wants to ask us some questions.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Yes, I'm here. You don't call roll for me, so I didn't get to jump in, but I've been listening quite interestedly. So this is very interesting to me. I think it's some good ideas. I want you, as you work through this, to think about some of the project management of this. So when you talk about 4 zone meetings, how are you envisioning that occurring? You're going to have a lot of people who are going to want to get their thoughts in, and I want everybody to have an opportunity to share their voice. And I don't know how many people will actually show up. You never know, but are you envisioning small groups? And if so, are you envisioning someone taking notes in each of those small groups as they work through the questions? So if that's the case, you're talking a base now of 7 meetings, and you're going to want support staff at each of those meetings. And I'm kind of trying to get a grasp on how many support staff we think we might need at those meetings, because I'm going to have to think of ways to compensate people for that work. So just as you work through the details, I would hope you can, sort of flesh out in your head what those meetings might look like. Or if you're expecting us to do it on our end, just say, we need you to do it on your end and tell us, that's fine. But just so we have a sense of what we're going to start planning for by November 9th.
I'll go ahead and add just really quick to that. So I know, I know one of the conversations that, and it was an idea that I had put in there, was the possibility of using our community school coordinators who are, they pretty much have received training in facilitating small group discussions, gathering information, because we do know that information, and Ashley, you can kind of weigh in on here, because I don't know how synthesized or how concise that information needs to be that they're collecting, but that could be an option that maybe we, partner with the community schools coordinators to help us with this. But the expectation was that at those meetings, that there would be an opportunity to break up into small groups, answer the questions that we're going to have, because it's going to be a facilitated conversation. Not a lot of questions, but a small group discussion to capture some of the notes or some of the feedback. It's too hard to do in just a big group with everybody raising their hand. That was not the intention. So, and if the district has some other thoughts or ideas of how you think we could do that, we would certainly entertain that for sure.
And Madam President, I just think if we're not going to really know until we get there how many people are going to be there. So if there's, 80 people and we have 10 tables set up with, 8 people at each table, and we have however many questions, several questions, we can just rotate, right? Do a rotation so that, those groups can go from one to another and just say you have 10 minutes, whatever we decide on time, you have this many minutes for question 1, question 2, and you just rotate around.
Well, and that's the design, that is. But Ashley, would you want to speak about that in terms of the importance of the table facilitation or the facilitation and the gathering of the information? What would be some of the process we'd have to take into account?
Yes, thank you, President Cordova and board members. So there is a pretty fleshed out process that we have in order to, so we will recommend a lot of the things based on what your board decides tonight. And then we will flesh out a lot of the details immediately following this meeting with your district staff. So a lot of the details and the concerns that were just mentioned by Superintendent Elder, I have been in contact with several members of your district staff already, and we're already anticipating this follow-up conversation for where the real planning and the project management portion of the work begins. Inside of the meetings, there will be, so let me paint a picture for you. So you have your meetings, there will be multiple tables in each meeting space. Attendees will come, they will gather around a table. They can either they can self-select one person to take notes and synthesize information for a large discussion with a larger group, or we can do something as you've recommended with your community schools coordinators, where you have an actual professional facilitator who is able to be there to help gather that information, facilitate the conversation, and help synthesize the information more effectively. It's really a matter of what works best for you all, what works best for your faculty, and what is going to work best for your community.
I would just ask Superintendent what he thinks. I mean, what he thinks, because it's his staff, and I mean, he can't have 8 people there or whatever.
I do think that we have leverage with the community school coordinators to help. They did something similar with the redesign of the 3 schools, where they broke them up into, it sounds very similar to when they broke them up and talked about their hopes and dreams. So I think once we are able to nail down kind of the place, the times, then we can facilitate how much staff is needed. And I think there are a lot of staff who are interested in this process as well, so that they would be willing to volunteer for a shift, so to say, to do it, because the community school coordinators, we have quite a bit of them, and with the community school coordinators, they are trained, and I don't want to volunteer them to do it, but they always are like, we'll help with, community input is kind of their thing. But once we are able to secure dates, I think we can help with the location and how many people we can get. And if we get into a point where we can't find people for a certain date or time, then we can kind of navigate that.
Yeah. And I think that was really the goal for us tonight as the board, is just really to be able to give that direction. We don't have to come up with all of those answers, specifically who it's going to be or what it's going to do, but it's really nailing down, what will engagement outreach, what dates are we going to be using, and what's that time frame, and what are we looking at? Because then we get to punt, I guess, a little bit, so that they can help us with that coordination at that level. So when I was looking at this over the weekend and thinking about dates and what's coming up, it really made sense that we cannot get started until like November the 9th, which is still around the corner, but it's not as soon as November the 1st, because November the 1st is definitely, tonight's already the 19th, but I think settling that tonight is top priority, that we have to do that. That's going to go into our minutes here for sure. And we're saying we're going to start our community engagement starting the week of, and it's going to be November the 9th through the 11th, because we're going to get after elections. We have to get through that part too. Our schools are sometimes utilized for that. It's not, and people are busy because they're also voting, we hope. But sort of thinking, that's what we would do on each of those. So at least one big session, as we're calling it, each of those weeks, and then maybe the weeks starting November the 14th, November the 28th, and the 5th, because that first one would be hard to do, one of those targeted, but I was thinking those targeted sessions would be the other weeks where it's a little bit longer, because we're shortening the week on the 9th through the 11th. That's what I was thinking there.
Because November 11th is Veterans Day.
Right. Okay.
Just to keep that, we don't have school that day. And then, I think giving us the leverage of basically it's one in each quadrant of the city to find the right location, because, the schools, high schools particularly, are very busy with sports and events and practices. So but I think out of 143 schools, we should be able to find 4. We can find 4.
Here's hoping.
But you also have Bonifacio.
We do.
You have
And we
Bonifacio in one of the sections, so that's also another option.
Zone 4. I think must be zone 4. Hey, there's one for a targeted group. I just realized students, it seems like Super SAC is a good base start. And I know somewhere does say something about student government, but more and more schools are having student councils and more active student voice. And it seems like if we could figure out a way of enhancing this Super SAC meeting that's already in place, to use that as one of the other targeted groups. But it seems like it would be good to have it somewhat broader than just them. I don't know if does VIA still exist?
I like the idea of the Super SAC because they already have a scheduled meeting date, and maybe if it's an opportunity to, Super SAC invites maybe some other students to participate with them, we could do it that way for sure. So, I don't know what dates they meet. I can't remember when they are.
It's Thursday.
And they usually have a 2-hour meeting. So, and what we're talking about these sessions is a 2-hour time frame anyway. So, and
November 17th is
like November 17th is already, so maybe that's another opportunity there for sure. So that's great to get our young people. But on the outreach pieces for, where we go in pairs in the community, I know one of the student led groups that I'm always a part of is the one through Atrisco Heritage. Jessica Martinez there does an outstanding job with her student council. I would love to like engage with them, and I'm sure she would set it up so that I could.
Have, the activities directors at each of the high schools all have active, student government, so they would be, I'm sure, happy to.
The thing would be though, is we wouldn't have the full 2 hours.
Right.
So we have to take that into account, but usually on the outreach side, I think, and Ashley can help us with that. When we go to outreach, we might not have the opportunity to do a full 2 hours. It might be a shorter script and a shorter type of way that we're getting feedback. But I think that is something that Ashley can help us with so that we make sure that we're really clear on that and the type of notes that we're gathering from that for sure. And Board Member Dominguez, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. You've had your hand up. Thank you for being patient.
No worries. I just thought I'd better get it up. And rather than just interrupt. So I'm gonna go back to the earlier part of the conversation when 2 dates were thrown out. And I know we were just brainstorming a Monday and a Wednesday, but then we decided Wednesdays are board meetings. So are we looking at Mondays and maybe Thursdays?
I don't think we were looking at any particular day because I think it goes back to our hosts. We have to go back and look and see what's available at those schools too.
Okay.
So I don't think I don't want to give like those parameters because then
Right.
we actually sort of like
We narrow it down too
we
much.
might narrow it too much for ourselves. So I want to give flexibility to the staff to see what fits best during that particular week and that particular zone.
Okay. And then with regard to engaging students, I think certainly looking at Super SAC and student government is a good idea. And I would also encourage along those lines, maybe where there are Native American student clubs or some iteration of Hispanic or Mecha or
And I think those would be on the outreach opportunities. So,
Right.
So if we can fit those in, we're going to be busy little bees as we're trying to go to a bunch of meetings. But we also have to go in pairs. So if we get to organize that within those weeks and we want to go, absolutely. So, but those are the kinds of things that we're going to have to try to fit in as much because this is on us. This is our work. And so we're going to be committing ourselves to attending all these meetings that we.
Right. And so did I hear correctly that if we don't get them in by December 9th, is there the possibility of extending beyond December 9th to, I don't want to rush.
I know,
the
here's the deal.
community engagement.
So, but here's the deal, because we had also said at our last meeting that what we wanted to do was to be able to approve our goals, our vision and our goals by January the 18th, I think is the meeting that the board adopts our goals and our guardrails. So that's why we're moving quickly through this. So if we don't get it done and we're feeling really remiss and we're like, oh, it's not good, or the information we have is not good, we also said that this is a fluid timeline, right?
Okay.
But we're also sort of on this, like, we're doing two dances here because we're also working towards the strategic plan. So we're going to make a commitment to moving along with this, seeing what our information gives us, what it looks like. And then I think what we're going to be doing every time we come together as board members is we're going to also be we're going to be reviewing this. This is our job in terms of what we want to have done around student outcome, focused governance, where we are, what we're looking at. So there'll be opportunities for us to come back and sort of say, where are we? What is it looking like? But we need to give ample opportunity for the Council of Great City Schools to synthesize the information, to pull it together and to help us review that. And they can't do that just like the week before the meeting, nor do we want to review it just 5 days before the meeting. We don't do well with that. So we have to give ourselves an opportunity to do it as well. So I think our job really between now and then is like to really encourage as many people as possible to get to these meetings. And then we also need to, do our very best and commit our very best to being in some outreach opportunities so that we can get as, sort of like this wide spectrum, and knowing that we're dividing and conquering too. We don't all have to go to the same meetings, but, if we're going in pairs and, calling our friends, say, hey, Secretary Jackson, you want to come with me kind of thing, to those, but that's what we're making a commitment to do.
Quick question, and this might be either for you or for Ashley. In regards to the outreach, which is different than the engagement, do the outreach sessions need to have a staff member as well, or are the outreach sessions on the 2 board members to take notes?
I understand that we're on the hook for taking our notes.
Okay, which makes
and gathering
sense.
the
Okay,
information.
I just wanted to clarify that so we don't.
So we gotta be
create more
really good at
chaos.
it. But that's why we go in a pair, because we hold each other accountable too for those things, and we're comparing our notes and coming to consensus in terms of what we're going to what we submit on behalf of that particular meeting. And Ashley, if I've said that incorrectly, or if there's other things you want to add to that, feel free to.
You're spot on. You've been. I'm a very proud coach right now because you have been spot on with everything so far.
Ashley and I have been spending our weekends together.
I have a question though, Ashley. So when you're looking at other districts that have done this and they're gathering the information, is it usually a staff member of the district that is the one that's taking notes at the table? Or can it be that somebody who's there is taking notes? I mean, what has worked better in your opinion?
It happens differently at pretty much every district that I've been engaged with. And I have a system that is set up to make it successful for whoever does it. So we have an online form that they can fill out. If they don't have the technical capacity to do that, then they can just even take a photo of the notes that are taken at the table, and then I can input it. So it's really just a matter of whatever works best for your district.
Yeah, if we have like you're talking about like some kind of template that may have like all the questions on there, and then that person could just fill that in. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that'd be great to have for those people like me. See, I am talking about myself.
I've got your back.
I know.
So the goal is, as the community's coming together, they're going to be visioning together. There's going to be sticky notes. There's going to be things that are going on. So that's what she's talking about, actually taking photos of it, putting the notes together. So it sounds like it's going to be a really, I want to say, it's a designed process, and it's going to be real similar no matter where we go. So the experience will be the same. And I like that. The value of it too is that if we get into a community and let's say we planned for 8 tables of 10, but then it turns out we have 12 and we're going to need some extra people. It seems like it'll be easy to just bump in to say who's willing to be at this table to do that. So I like that flexibility that it gives us for sure. Okay, so go ahead.
Do we have a plan yet for the outreach? Like, I'm just sitting here thinking through other organizations that should be tied in, perhaps. And so it's actually a question. Like, for instance, El Centro de Igualdad y Derecho, they would be a natural fit with the refugee and immigrant session. And so do do we need to develop, or is there something already in mind for how we get the word out to the community?
So
On the agenda.
So if you look down there, so part of it, okay, so let's go down each of those questions. So we know the dates that will be for engagement and outreach, what we're looking at for that time frame. We know how many engagement opportunities are going to be developed. We know how will the events be divided amongst the community. We've got that. And what types of locations, we've got that. What kinds of accommodations should be provided. We haven't talked much about that, but we know that those accommodations would be things like probably should have interpreters, probably should have some light snacks or some like water or something, because we also know that that helps. I don't know, does anyone else have anything else to add to that in terms of other accommodations?
I'm worried about people coming and having children and they're not having anybody. So that's something else. We need to have somebody who's going to be willing to watch the
So some
children.
childcare. Okay. She's
I
writing
think
it down. So we're writing that down. And we can say, if it's either going to be available and see if we can
If it
accommodate
will,
that.
and if it
Yeah,
can't be, then
right.
it can't be. It's like if you
Sure.
can get people.
What other kinds of accommodations would be
Hearing
important to you?
impaired, hearing impaired.
Yeah,
as well.
so interpreting services for me was both language and hearing impaired. Yeah.
And I think this is probably a staff thing, but what comes to mind is just even extra laptops, so that if people show up and we have to pull in volunteers to take notes, then we have like a district laptop there that they can use.
Some technology, maybe some
Technology.
technology needs. We might have technology needs that might be other than that. We might need some microphones and things like that, but so those would be some other things that we would think about. And what I do know and trust about the district is they've thought about these things because they've done it like several times. So I don't think we're coming up with anything unusual here, but yeah. She's like, yeah, we got it. So, okay.
Although Maria has retired and she was one of the masters of pulling all this stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we have some other masters in the community. I feel Dr. Blakey is also a master at this kind of stuff. She does really good things. So let's take this last question, which is what groups within the community should receive deliberate communications? And I had asked this question specifically of Ashley because I was a little confused. I said, okay, we went through making these lists of all these people and these things. So everybody that was like on our lists of like potential names of groups and organizations would be organizations that would be targeted, like their places for targeted communication. And I don't think there was anything that was out of the ordinary there. But if I think there'll be an opportunity for us still to come back to look at those lists. So let's say we're working on the tribal community outreach. It's going to be a very deliberate group that we're going to focus on there. So I think it's understood in terms of who we want to target to be at that particular meeting and who's important for us there. So all of that will also be part of the conversation. So when I asked her about what do you mean for us to take into account here? It's like, these are the things that, a list itself is not going to capture. So I was thinking back to like board member Gonzalez, and a deliberate group for her around communications is making sure that we're also targeting our families who have students who are at risk, or students who are, our family members who specifically would have an interest around, some particular issue that's related to them, kids who are in juvenile justice or something like that, that would just be a deliberate group that we would want to make sure that we're being very intentional with them. And we could think about what that would look like. I don't have my other notes, Ashley, because I don't have my computer in front of me. But can you go through the red lines in terms of what were some of those targeted groups that we had in there? So I know it was families and caregivers.
Yeah, so it was caregivers, families, parents, guardians. So anyone that would fall in that, adults who are responsible for young people, that category. Educators was one. the faith-based community was another one. Churches are a great way, and other faith-based organizations are a great way to reach members of those communities. And then, let's see, I said educators. And then another one, I actually don't have my notes in front of me either. And the tribal community was.
It's funny because
you have mentioned them all throughout the course of this meeting. I know that.
So board member Jackson had it, she found it. So it was like the immigrant community, faith leaders. So I was like thinking when we do with the refugee community, for example, we want to be real intentional with Lutheran Family Services, for example, because they're the resettlement agency that does all of that work, making sure that they're just aware because they will help us to get the information out, or even to like the Asian Family Center, which would do some real targeted outreach with some of our Asian families. And they also do broad work across all of the refugee community. But so that's what we were thinking about there. And if there's anybody else that's missing from that or that you'd like to include, just let us know. We can add that there.
What about Catholic Social Services? Are they still doing a lot of immigrant or resettlement?
Yeah. So Catholic charities.
Charities, yeah.
Lutheran Family Services are doing a lot of the resettlement work too. And I mean, the more I sit here, the more I think, oh, I should have put Black Leadership Council.
Yeah.
There's a really active Martin Luther King Day. It's an organizing committee, but it also pulls together a lot of the African American church leaders within that group. South Broadway Development Council. There, I think once we have the dates and we have sort of a more solid vision of what this looks like, then it's going to be easy to both put in their hands the opportunities that already exist and say, or would you like a couple of us to come to your meeting?
Yep, exactly. And once it's all done, our fine media team will probably put it on Facebook, put it on social media, and we're going to be sharing a lot and forwarding. So you're absolutely correct. They either come to those meetings or if they want to invite us to come. And again, making that commitment, if we're going to go, it's got to be within that week. Let's see how many we can get in. And then going with a friend, with a board member friend, making the commitment to doing that.
Sort of the parallel of bathroom buddies.
Yes, there you go. So I think, I know for us tonight that was really the bulk of what we need here. And it's really just this communication over to the district in terms of what our vision is for those big 4 meetings and the targeted meetings. And then I guess just open it up for questions that you might have, Dr. Blakey or our Superintendent Elder, if you're on the phone, other things that maybe we're not thinking about.
I think he's still on. So there's 4, 1 in each quadrant between the dates of November 9th and November 18th, 2-hour timeframes. And we will let you know.
You mean, no, I'll till December the 9th.
Oh, December.
Yes, so it goes from November the 9th to December the 9th to the week of, yeah. You were freaking out. No, there's 4 weeks in there.
Okay.
Okay.
I just, planted that so it sounds so much easier now. Okay, and then we'll work on the facilitators location.
Okay.
Childcare, water, snacks, interpreters, tech, and advertising.
Cool.
I'm sure Superintendent Elder is writing it all down while he's listening to
I have a feeling he's downing probably about.
No, I'm still here. And yes, I'm writing things down. I'm a little concerned. I'm going to be honest, because that's quite a list. And you've got Thanksgiving in the middle there. So that's a 2-day week for us.
Well, we gave up the week of Thanksgiving in there. So it's the week of November the 9th through the 11th.
I heard it, 9th through the December 9th. We'll find 4 zone meetings. how you're going to squeeze all the others in. And may I ask, because I guess I'm a little concerned. I saw all the committee meetings pop up again on my calendar. Are we doing that again in November?
Looks like it.
Is that why Monday's not happening?
Well, I think we just kind of decided to place them
in the event.
in the event. Yeah. So they're on there as a placeholder right now, and then we can
because this
decide as we move forward. Right.
It has to be a priority. So for us as board, I mean, if there is no way that the district can support us with this plus what we're trying to do with committee structure, and we have to give that up so that we can get this done, I think that's really going to be our priority because we have to get this done.
This is
Okay,
our
well,
priority.
I will be back on, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm coming back now, but we'll see. We'll be back on Monday and I'll be talking to Dr. Blakey, I'm sure before then, and she'll have things in line. I've been listening, so thank you.
Okay.
And I think again, the main organizational role for the district staff are the 4 meetings, that most of the others will be on us, except for the refugee. There'll need to be assistance with translation, with interpretation.
Yeah.
Could you clarify that? Which 4? Because I in my head, we have 8 meetings.
Okay, so let me synthesize that because I want to say this. So the big 4 organizational meetings, definitely the district is going to help us with the coordination and pieces of that. The other meetings, with the refugee community, the one in Spanish, and the one with the tribal communities definitely need assistance also from the district around just getting those on a schedule, on a date so that we can do that. But it's still on us as board members to go to that and actually help to probably at those meetings, we may be facilitating and actually gathering the information.
And I just want to clarify the Black community. It sounded like we were going to create that 4th.
No. So those are the 3 targeted meetings. We also set another targeted meeting with Super SAC on November 17th. So we'll make that one, but that one, the board members are going. So Josefina, any other meetings that come up with the Black Student Union or with another organizing group, that's on us. The district's not going to coordinate that for us. We have to find those meetings. We're inviting ourselves to their meeting or they're inviting us to their meeting. And that's where we're asking for some time on their agenda to talk about this and gather some input. Those are different.
So we're asking the district for help with meeting with the tribes.
Yes.
Spanish speakers and the refugee community. Okay.
Yes.
We decided what would be easiest.
So we'll let the district again sort of come up with some strategies for us in terms of what would be best. So for example, with the tribal communities, I'm assuming that a conversation will occur with Mr. Farson, who will probably give us a strategy in terms of what he thinks would be best. And again, with the Spanish community and with the refugee community, those are the ones we need assistance from the district. But these other organizations that we might go to, that's on us as board members. We need to get invited to one of their meetings to do that.
And can we, I know that we need to wait until from Ashley until we have the list of questions and all of that, but can we go ahead and start reaching out and scheduling those and requesting time?
Yep.
Okay.
Because we've got the date, the window. You've got the window of opportunity. So you can start, doing some outreach to some community organizations, scheduling those to get on their agenda and saying, we're going to need some time. Ashley, on those particular ones, are we needing just like maybe about an hour?
So you're going at, everyone is going to be different. So I can, if you can ask them for a minimum of 10 minutes on their agenda, then we can work with that. If you could get a full hour, then that would be amazing. But most organizations are going to give you somewhere between 10 and 30 to 45 minutes. So, and I just ask that you, as you get any scheduled, that you shoot me the time and then who is going to be attending. Until I just in the meantime, until I have a document that can be editable by everyone, which will be probably by the end of the weekend.
Okay, perfect. So good. It's only 10 minutes. You could do several meetings in a day. No, just kidding. Chop, chop, chop.
Here we go.
Go to work.
Yeah, we could do drive-by.
So I need that clarified. What meeting?
Josefina has the question. Go ahead.
So you just lost me. Courtney asked about, so can we reach out to
Your outreach organizations. So if you want to reach out to, I don't know, let's pick a group. Pick a group.
Here's my example. Like, I know that the Parents Together Fellowship is interested in giving their feedback. They've already emailed. So my question was, can I now reach out to them and say, here's our time frame. Can I have 15 minutes on your agenda?
And so during that time, during their agenda time, are we asking the question? We're all asking the same questions, right?
Gathering the same information. Yes. And Ashley's going to put that together for us and what we do in that 15-minute time frame. It's a different kind of question. It's a different kind of information, but Ashley's putting that together for us. So you'll have that script and you'll have the purpose of that outreach.
So that's a much more truncated version.
Yes.
Okay.
But we're also encouraging those people to attend the big session if they want to get involved in the larger conversation. So for your particular group, we would want them to go to the bigger session for sure.
It just seems like you'd be, yeah, I mean, we want more complete information.
So it's going to be synthesized differently. Okay, so there's going to be information that's synthesized for engagement and information that's synthesized around the outreach. Not the same questions. It's probably, Ashley, I don't think it's the same questions, correct?
No, it is. It is. But for the outreach opportunities, what we will do is have so I will actually have a link that they can go to and complete the question. So you're not asking the questions real time. You are delivering basic information about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you would like for them to do. But what you're not going to do is ask them the questions and do the actual like interaction feedback in the moment with them. It'll be, instead of being happening live, they'll be giving it through an online form.
Unless if they say, we will give you the entire hour of our meeting. Does that alter how we interact with them?
Ashley, let's back at you.
Yes, that will. So if they give you a full hour, then that is enough time to actually ask the questions and get the feedback in real time. And that's what I mean when I say you need at least 15 minutes to be able to give your spiel. But having that extended time would be great because then you can do the full thing in real time. But I make it as easy as possible for you to be as efficient as possible in this process.
As possible. Okay.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Question. What's the next step for developing the script and the questions, and how will we be interacting on that?
So Ashley is working on those as we speak. So she's starting because we had asked, she asked us for some feedback in terms of what questions do you think are important, yada, yada. And so, so Ashley's currently working on that. So each of our meetings, this is on our agenda. So we'll be reviewing all of that stuff and coming to agreement on those pieces. So But she's helping us by listening to us. The one-on-one conversations have been helpful. That was the purpose of us being engaged with her, so she can gather all that and then sort of try to put all our brains together as one.
And this is partly based on what we heard tonight with public comment. It seems to me that one of the things that we want to do is start out on a positive, start out with what is working, what is good, and then be honest about where the problems are and where we need to. But it's just like with, they do studies with students taking tests. If you set the tone as it being, this is going to be really hard and you're not going to do well, they do not do well. And if we set the tone as what is working, and where do we need to grow to be better, I think we will get more helpful feedback to really lead us where we need to go.
Okay. And I think Ashley's she's listening to us on our board meetings too. So she's trying to gather where our thoughts are. But tonight, was really around us sort of finalizing this piece so that we can start to get moving on where we are. So I see a lot of head nods. Are there any other questions or comments? Because it's not a vote. This is just discussion, and we're just giving information. And again, it's so that one of the next steps will be the plan, where it's going, where they're going to be, the script. So a lot of that's going to be coming back, but this was an input session so that we could work on that. And I will say one of the things that we were, when I had this conversation with Ashley, I said I was really worried because we were missing some school board members tonight. And she said, again, with student outcomes, focused governance, no more excuses, nothing, we still have to keep moving. And so I'm grateful that, we feel confident enough with the leadership that we do have, that, we're making some good decisions together, and holding in light, the couple that we are missing, but that's okay, because I think we're still carrying a lot of their thoughts and ideas of how we want to move forward. All right. Do you have another comment? One more before we?
I did. So then the link, the availability of the link then, Ashley, will that be that week of November 9th is when that link will be available that we can give out when we're doing community outreach?
I believe that will
Yes,
be.
ma'am.
Yes. Yes. And then when we get, and then this will be, because November is a busy time for, I'm sure, all of us. So and this will be to, I don't know who, once they come up with the dates that we have schools available in the different, areas, then will those come back to us so we can go, okay, I cannot do it that week. We're not going to go in numerical order, 1, 2, 3,
We're going to
4.
try our best to assign, we're going to make recommendations.
You're on the hook.
Here's what the assignments look like. But if it's not working for somebody and, we're cross-pollinating, we'll figure it out. I mean, we're busy people. We get that, but we also have to be willing to represent the entire district. I don't have to be in the South Valley for mine. I could be somewhere else. I mean, I would love to be somewhere else too sometimes. So, but that's what we're going to be looking at is so we're not going to limit ourselves by our own schedules, but we're going to be working together as a team so that we can get all of our meetings accomplished in the best way possible. And stuff happens. We're all living lives too. And sometimes stuff happens. And, if it's not going to work for, some of our board members, we will work around that as well too, because the goal is to just help get this done, because this is really important for the district and it's really important for our community. So we'll get there. All right. I just want to say thanks, guys, because I know Ashley, poor thing, on Saturday, I took her through the paces. I was like, I'm so stressed out. I don't know if this is what we're supposed to do, but she kind of helped calm me down. So Ashley, hopefully I made you proud tonight. Because I was pretty stressed out. I know she left. She just left me. Okay, all right. So our next item, let's see, where are we? Oh, our next item is board member comments. I left board member comments on for tonight. And so I will start with board member Mueller-Aragon.
Okay, so just have been like really busy. So the tribal summit was, we learned, I think we always learn a lot. So I always enjoy being part of that. And then going to the Rio Grande Gym and just seeing how beautiful that is. I know that got to see member Montoya Cordova with her, her letters. And so that was just exciting. And it's so beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to go out and see it, you should. And then member Dominguez and I got to be part of the Super SAC, and that was just being with the kids and those leaders. I mean, we are so blessed to have such amazing student leaders. So I don't think that any of us are going to have to worry. They're going to be there, right there to take over for us. And I did tell them, like, we're old. It's going to be time for them to take over for us older people, I just want to give a big shout out to Jace out at Cibola High School. I got to be part of the DECA celebration, and he's just a totally amazing young man that is going to be a fabulous leader, raised by a single mother who has just put in so much time for her children. And he's just making her very proud, and himself as well, and Cibola as well. I did hear something that was concerning. And so I want to make sure and put that, put some of these things out there. I know we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that, our schools are safe. So when I went out to Cibola, I couldn't get in, anywhere. Like I was trying to, they have everything locked up to keep the kids safe. I was trying to get the attention of the cheerleaders and trying to get the attention of the DECA. And I was like, okay, there has to be some place where I can get in. So I was like, athletes are always around. So I'll go around and go toward the gym. And so I did. And there were athletes coming in and out, and they're, letting them in. But I was talking to, and this is very concerning. So I just want to make sure that administration knows this, is that, the homeless have figured out how to get into schools, and they did get into Cibola, and they did try to corner them. Obviously there's the children practicing, there's clubs going on, and they did corner him, and they did call the police and did everything that they were supposed to do. But they were obviously concerned for everybody who was still in the school. But what happened is this homeless person pulled his pants down, and he pooped right there in front of, which if anybody did that, that would be sexual assault, or, you'd be put in a sexual offender list. And so I know we're doing everything we can, because I had a hard time getting in there, but there are those people that are getting into schools, as you just heard tonight from one of the speakers, when it comes to some of the vandalism that's going on. We just need to, I don't know what you need to do. That's on the administration to try to figure out what we can do to try to make things even safer than what we've done, because I know we're doing everything that I think we possibly can, but we have to do something else, Dr. Blakey. And then also, we heard a lot about the problems on the bus, and I know that we got some emails. And so that's another thing that you all have to just, work on. I've heard about kids throwing things at the cars, which is very, it's just dangerous. It's dangerous for people in vehicles, and it's dangerous for other kids. And so I'm sure that there's something that can be done. And I'm sure you guys are going to start working on that as well. But we did hear from a lot of bus drivers. So that is a big concern. So whatever we can do, I'm sure you can make sure and talk to to Kathy Chavis, and she always has ideas about what we can do better. The other thing is, I know this is true across the whole entire country, but there are so many subs, and I'm just hearing about children not getting taught the standards because they have subs that, aren't certified to teach English or teach science or teach math. And so those kids we're being told that they're not missing out. The kids are saying something different. I believe the kids, because the kids are the ones that are getting the education. And so I believe when they say they're not getting taught, that they haven't got any assignments, they don't get any homework. In English, they haven't written any papers, had to read anything, and they watch a lot of movies. And so that is something that if, the zone superintendents can just kind of look that over and make sure our kids are getting, because I know there's great subs out there, so they just really need help from the administration or from some of the teachers that are around them. Also some kids that, and this is just something that I know that we don't do, that I think that we should do, is parents know what's best for their children. They know what kind of teacher is best for their kids. They know what kind of learning their child needs. They know what their kids need. And so to be told that the school knows better, the teachers know better, the principals know better than they do, and that the child is going to have to stay in a classroom that's not working for them is something that I have never agreed with. And I was lucky when I was teaching, because I always got to get my children in a classroom with a teacher that met my children's needs. And I think every parent should have that opportunity. Yes, there are great teachers, but that great teacher might not work for your child. And so it's just a shame that that is happening to so many of our kids, and parents are really trying. And I pass them on to talk to whomever they need to talk to, but it is outright, your child is staying in that class. And I don't personally agree with that at all. I also have seen some that, and I remember this, and I'm sure Barbara remembers this, and Josefina remembers this, that you have storage rooms filled with all kinds of equipment and so many things that have never, ever been used that would just shock the taxpayers. That there are things that are in boxes that are brand new that have never, ever been used. And I think that we have them, and we ordered a whole bunch of things during the pandemic, not knowing what we were going to need to use. But if there could be some way, some school might need what's in another school's storage. So if there's some way that we can get them to talk to each other, because some of this stuff, like heavens, it's like brand spanking new, but another school might need it and that school just doesn't. So if there's some way that we can try to figure that one out, I just hate to see that, that waste. I'm also seeing a lot of computers. I went into a couple of classrooms that don't have Promethean boards, and that they need those smart boards. And so I don't know how we can find it, but every teacher says they need to have those smart boards in order to teach, and every teacher doesn't have one. And so whatever we can do to get them what they need, the tools they need to teach, and if that's what they say they need, we need to get them to them. I know at one of the high schools in my district, and I think it was Volcano Vista, has 120 some teachers. And I think they said they only had 54 smart boards. And don't quote me exactly on those numbers, because I hope that that's right, but it was close. So we need to figure out how to get them. I know we're saying we don't have money. The teachers need them. Please get them. Same thing for computers. I was in a classroom, and all of us, I'd say half the computers in the classroom were not working. And then when I was there, another computer went out, and that a storage room is filled with computers that aren't working. If the kids don't have a computer, they can't do their They can't do their work. And it's very upsetting to see these kids, especially in this one class, because this teacher is so fabulous. And she was talking about how she can teach her kids, and when they graduate, they come out of her class. She has kids that are coming right out of high school with the training that she's giving them, then they're making $60,000 a year just coming out of school. But if they don't have the computers, if the equipment isn't working, and there's some equipment that is like costs $40,000 and they just need a part to get it going. And a tech teacher knows how to fix all this stuff. So if we can just get them the parts, then the tech teacher would be willing to get everything fixed. So that's why tech teachers are very important. And I know that we're kind of doing away with them. And I know that has happened, like at Lavaland, that tech teacher is now in the classroom and is really needed. There's Esteban. Hi. So those are just some things, if the administration can just look into some of this, I'd really would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Dominguez. You have any
Peggy, Peggy, ya descargaste la batería. I think.
What was that? The battery has already run out?
Yes. So, I just, after hearing all that, I think we could say the same thing for all our schools, Peggy. And don't, I wish I could wave this little wand and give our superintendent a donation to cover all the costs of that so that he could make us happy and make students and teachers and parents happy.
We're hoping we're going to win the loteria.
Yeah, well, and so in lieu of that, let's all get together and invite our legislators to remind them of our needs and what our children deserve, right? I want to thank the American Federation of Classified Professionals for coming forth tonight and telling their stories. I thought they were very restrained, very respectful, despite the frustration. And I'm ever hopeful that things will get resolved. And I also want to thank parents who came out, and I want to assure them that they do have rights. I think there is some misunderstanding about what rights they do have. And they have always had, and they are protected. And we will do our part to clarify all that. And report from Orlando is that it's wonderful to be here to see how we compare to other districts. And I think, we do an admirable job. What we don't have are the 25 to 30 staff in communications departments that other schools have. But we have us, and we have, Superintendent Alder, I forget the new campaign, hashtag
proud, APS proud,
APS proud. And so we have us, and we've got to be the ones to promote a new tone, because we come off smelling like roses. So that's the report from Orlando.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
Sure. I'm just going to be brief. I wanted to thank all of the people who showed up tonight for public forum. One thing that I noticed is that everybody showed up with an issue, but everybody also showed up with suggested solutions. And I think that that's so appropriate and such a great way for us to hear what's going on in the district, but also to offer up solutions. And some of the solutions that I heard were accountability and transparency. So I too am ever hopeful that for our bus drivers, that those issues will be resolved quickly, because I can't imagine some of the issues that they are having to deal with. And also, thank you to the parents who showed up again to offer solutions for reading the policy that had been tabled, but to also offer solutions and to let your voice be heard, because this is so important, again, to the accountability and transparency that was very evident throughout all of the public forum comments. The only other thing that I would just want to encourage our community, we are asking for your input, and this is the opportunity. So please continue as the meetings, our community meetings get posted. Please show up and please engage. And one thing that is imminently coming up, and I did post this on my Facebook page, but I also know it is on the APS site, is we have large maps right here in the boardroom. The redistricting committee is going to be offering up their suggestions. I believe it's coming soon, next week. And they are requesting community input onto some of the concepts that have been presented. So it is on the APS website. It's also on my Facebook page, the link that you can send in your comments on the concepts that have been presented. But these are the maps that will be in play for the next 10 years. So take a look at them, and please let your voice be heard. And I think that that's just a recurring theme that you're going to hear from this board is we want to hear from the community. We need to have your voice. And so it's very appreciated that this is that our community is hopefully feeling more engaged and more willing to speak up. So that's it.
Thank you, Board Member Peterson.
The new gym at Rio Grande is long overdue and very beautiful, without a doubt. A shout out to our board member in Orlando. One of the things that's always interesting at the Council of Great City Schools meetings is that they publish a very in-depth KPI book. And one of the things that we do not tell the community enough is that we fare very well, despite some of the headlines, despite some of the think tanks, despite various legislators and other folks. APS uses the money that we have wisely, and there are many systems in place that are national models for operations and for things like evaluations of teachers, of some of the models that we've worked on for mentoring, for all sorts of things. So I think the point that what we don't have is a 35-person PR department. So it comes down to us getting the word out. And what strikes me, and I've been in schools listening to some of the concerns about staffing in schools, that every single problem that came up and the solutions that the bus drivers offered, which are very practical and very much in line with also what I'm hearing from my schools, is that it is funding for positions. It comes down to we need staff staff takes money and staff takes workforce. And so the other part of this is having the people in the community that we need to find and hire with the funding to fund those positions. That right sizing in some people's minds meant and is meaning day in, day out in schools, that staff is struggling to address the issues that kids are coming to school with. And, you know, one of the things that I've heard a lot is that in general, kids are doing much better this year. In general, kids are coming back much more engaged and finding ways of working in school that's real positive. But that for the kids that are still struggling, those students are escalating higher than ever before. And we don't have the social workers that they need. I'm talking to nurses and counselors who have referred kids to mental health providers, and they have 6-month waiting lists. We have to change what our sense of taking care of each other is. And we've got to invest in the kinds of professions that have always been held up as, how do we take care of each other? And putting the respect for those positions back in place. Because right now, yeah, we need, and I've always thought, I can't imagine driving a bus, even when everything is going the best it can possibly go. I can't imagine being on a bus and taking care of traffic, taking care of 40 kids, and taking care of everything that's involved. And now it's absolutely clear that we've got to make these jobs attractive. We've got to have the funding for them, and we need need more SROs. We need more of our APS security folks to be able to be patrolling and tracking down. But it comes down to funding, it comes down to workforce. And that is not a magic wand that our administration has. It's not a magic wand that any district in the country has right now. And it's going to take some real investment and some real commitment. And right sizing is not going to get us there. It's going to come from a commitment to filling those positions that serve our children.
Thank you. Okay, so I will just close by saying too, I was really proud of Rio Grande High School for sure. The gym was built the year I was born. So, so I know it was old. It was older. It was old enough. So it was time. So, but it was really quite the treat to be there that night. I got to spend the night also with an alumni association, and I went to the homecoming game. I did wear my letter sweater, but it was a lot of fun, and I truly appreciate the taxpayers in terms of making that available, because it was through their election with the bonds that got us to the finish line on that big, beautiful gym in our community. And then I just want to close. I think there's a couple of things that I want to say. One is to our dear Kathy Chavez, who has also spent her time as an educational assistant. My mother retired as an educational assistant from APS. And so I have this real deep affinity for just the hard work that I know that they all do. They are definitely the eyes, the ears, the extra hands on a school campus. And so, Kathy, if you're out there and you're hearing, I love you, and I absolutely adore the work that our educational assistants do. I know they work very, very hard, and also to our bus drivers. But this takes me to this point of where I'm really excited about what's coming up, and that's this opportunity for our community engagement. Because when you choose public school, you also are choosing to be part of a community. And our community is made up of very many different types of people, types of circumstances, and things that are happening in our lives. And what makes it rich is that it's complex, and we learn a lot from each other. I have never regretted my public education. I was grateful. I grew up in the South Valley, went to all the schools there, graduated from Rio Grande. And even when I was there was definitely difficulty. It was messy. There were some things that sometimes worked really well and some things that didn't. But that's what we're here to do. And I think as community partners, we have to come together to figure out how we make this array work out, because it is really what happens when our students also get out of high school or get out of school. They step into our communities in New Mexico or here in Albuquerque, and it's this rich diversity of people that are like us and people who are not like us. And there are things that people like about us, and there are things that people don't like about us. But at the end, we have to figure out how we work in that community and how we make it rich for everybody, and an experience that honors the traditions, the culture, the beliefs, the values of everyone that is part of that. So as we, what I'm asking the community is, as we engage in these sessions, that you come out and come and be part of that community, because it is about being in communion with everybody that you live with, that our kids have to be in school with, that our teachers have to teach. And we have to figure out how to meet everyone's needs. And so I think it's going to be a rich opportunity to be in communion and to learn together and to figure out ways that we can make the district something that can help us achieve all the goals that we want for our kids. And then finally, I just want to say that what's really impacting us, as I was hearing the stories from our bus drivers, is that it's really evident that one of the issues that's missing in a big way in our community is access to comprehensive behavioral health and mental health services for kids. The wait lists are long, it's not available, or it's not available in the way that we need it. School districts are not treatment facilities. We've never been that, but we are places where we can create some safety, and we support students through this. But it needs to be an array of services. It's also available in the community so that there's a continuity of care for students that goes beyond what schools can provide. And so, we need to talk to our legislators. We really need to get very serious about what's happening, because there are some students that are definitely in trouble. We have some young people that are experiencing some significant behavioral health concerns and needs. And it's APS is not going to be able to do this by itself. And so I do want to support our bus drivers. I want to create safety for everyone. And I'm going to say this, I also want to create safety for those kids that are in trouble, because it's not about locking them up or putting them in jail. That's also not going to solve our problems. We need to figure out how we can create a continuum of services and supports for those students. So that's not where they end up. They deserve much better than that, for sure. So with that, the next Board of Education meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. in the John Milne Community Boardroom of the Alice and Bruce King Educational Complex, 6400 Uptown Boulevard Northeast, or virtually at www.aps.edu. And the next special Board of Education meeting will be held on Wednesday, October 26, 2022 at 5:15, or immediately following the Finance Committee. That's really wishful thinking, right? Following the Finance Committee meeting. So, and with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam President.